I'll call this regular council meeting in the Village of Grandman to order at 7:45 p.m. We apologize for the delay in starting. With us for prayer this evening is Pastor Dave Smith.
I know we're starting late, but I really wanted to, before I said prayer, I really wanted to say a word of thanks, even just for today. I started off my day teaching two little boys how to stop. I knew how to skate, but they didn't know how to stop yet. And I don't think I taught them very well, and I was jealous that I wish I could fall down and get back up as fast as they can. Anyway, and then tonight, when I found out I had to be here, I thought, well, I may as well go to the fitness center, which I really enjoy. And just being here those times, there's young adults playing volleyball now. A bunch of women were doing exercises in there before that. There's children and elderly people, and it's a wonderful place. And I know there's lots of other wonderful facilities on the island that make it a great place to live. But anyway, today I was just thinking, today I've been in here and I've seen this place hopping, and I've been one of the ones hopping in it, and it's just nice. So thank you so much. And I know you know the stats, but it really makes a difference to people's lives. So thank you. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for our home of Grand Manan, and we thank you for all the people and all the places that we cherish so much. And we thank you for our leadership, for the mayor and the council, and for the good work that they do. We pray your blessing upon them this evening as they make plans and deliberate about the well-being of our home. Bless them. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. See you next month. I don't have a lot for opening remarks other than to say we've been busy this month, both with the rural plan and the budget, which are both on the agenda tonight. I think there'll be some discussion around those things, and I just appreciate everybody's dedication on both of those files, because it's been a bit of a slog to get to hopefully a good place, but I'm happy with the work that we've put in, and I appreciate everybody participating. So with that, we'll move on to item number 4, which is disclosure of conflict of interest. Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the minutes of our regular council meeting on November the 3rd. Heard the motion from Councillor Ballantyne. Do we have a seconder?
No, second.
Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Additions to the agenda. I have one invoice to add under the general operating fund. It is to Dutchman Contracting for $3,450, and that's for supplies for DTI for Public Works. And I'd also like to suggest that we move item 19.2, the election of a deputy mayor, move that to new business under 14.8. And the CAO would like us to add in a right for information request that we have received, and that would be under 14.9. Would anyone like to make a motion to make those changes / additions? Councillor Greenlaw?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Councillor Ballantyne? Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The next item would be the 10-minute open session. Okay, I don't see Caleb rushing to the mic, so we will move on to item number 11, which is delegations. So Dawning Voyage Bus Tours. Robert Barrio is with us online, and he's going to speak to that. So welcome.
And you probably understand. But anyway, just a short description about the company. We started in June in St. Andrews, and we were doing and it wasn't as, due to our being new, it wasn't as profitable as we would like, so we started looking for some other things, and one of the things that we found that Eastern Charlotte was interested in was they funded some trips to St. John for people who might possibly need the transportation, whether they don't like driving the city or whether they don't like to the winter weather, or maybe they don't have the funds to even have a car or something. So what I'm going to be asking of you this evening would be something along those lines, although it's something that anybody could take advantage of if they wanted to. So yeah, I guess what I'm proposing to you, I did send a proposal along to Bonnie there. I don't know if she got it or if anybody has seen it or not, but if you haven't, then I could send that along again for everybody to have a look at.
No, it's included in our package, so everybody's had an opportunity to have a look at it, so thank you for that.
Okay.
Yep.
No, that's great. So you should have a basic idea of what I'm proposing there, and I don't know, I guess maybe if anybody has any questions, maybe that's the best way to move forward without making this too long and drawn out.
Any questions or comments around the table? Hearing none, I guess maybe our next step would be, I mean, we've got the budget coming up on the agenda that I think we've finalized. I guess for me personally, I'm not sure where this would fit into our budget, so I don't know if anybody has any comments, if we just want to table this for discussion down the road, or what the next step would be. Councillor Green.
Yeah, I took a quick scan through your package here, the 3 pages of it, and I guess, do you have a specific ask of us, is what I didn't quite see that anywhere.
Well, specifically what I'm asking is the same thing that Eastern Charlotte has done. They're funding a tour to leave from the St. George area, and we would take people to St. John to do various things they would need to do, shopping or whatever, that kind of thing, and then we would just be bringing them back. And I think the cost for that would be roughly $1,000 per trip. And if you guys aren't don't want to fund it completely, maybe there's a way we could partially charge a small fee to people, and you guys could pick up the rest. But that's basically what I'm hoping for. Just looking for some things that are concrete, I guess, as far as on a monthly basis. If I could pick up a couple trips from Eastern Charlotte and a couple trips from you, maybe a couple from St. Stephen or St. Andrews, that would keep me going for the winter, when things are slow. That's what I'm looking for.
Any other questions or comments? What I might suggest, because this is a little bit outside the realm of our direct responsibility to fund off-island travel for residents, but maybe it would be worth having a conversation with DTI and maybe assessing if there's public interest, particularly around the time when the Adventure is in dry dock this spring. If there is some need for it at that point, I see that being a bit more of a closer fit, if anything, for us. I don't know if there's any feelings around that around the table, or what the will of the group is. Councillor Sturgeon.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to follow your first suggestion that we table this matter and discuss this here further, now that we've had a chance to hear from Mr. Berrio and of course, Councillor Green's questions and his particular ask.
Okay, so is that a motion to table till a future meeting?
Yes, Madam
So you heard the motion from Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Toll. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Barrio. We will put this on the agenda for an upcoming meeting and hopefully be back to you sometime early in the new year if that's doable.
Okay, well, I know I appreciate your time, and thank you for listening to me, and yeah, hopefully we can come up with something in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you for zooming in.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
You guys have a good night.
All right, bye-bye. I probably should have brought this up when we were doing additions to the agenda, but I wonder with Xander sitting online about moving the rural plan bylaw up, but maybe he's walked away from his camera and isn't there right now, and we'll just go through. Oh, he is there. Just that I see we have a fair amount under new business, and to save him from sitting through that, waiting to get to his part of the agenda, if there's willingness from the group that we just move 16 up till now ahead of the new business. Is that fair? Okay, so item number 16 is bylaws, the rural plan bylaw. I'm going to turn this over to Xander shortly, but I think we need to say a thank you to the RSC staff for walking us through this process post-public hearings, or the information sessions, not public hearings. There was a lot of feedback, a lot of things to consider, some things that we could address, some things that we couldn't. But I think what they've done is given us a better starting point than where we were. So I'm going to turn it over to Xander because I think he has a presentation for us, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more about the plan at that point.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. I changed microphones.
You're good.
Still good. Great. And did you want to record the presentation?
You're already on air and being recorded, so you're good to go.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right, so I'll do that thing where I share my screen. Always takes a minute to find it. But I think we're there. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that.
Yep, we got it.
Awesome. Okay, so we have kind of conceptualized, I wouldn't say conceptualized entirely, but this is a definitely a different looking document now. And given the amount of changes, rather than keep going with the same numbering, which I think still referred to 2024 when the process started, this would be bylaw 6125. So it is kind of definitely there's a relation to the bylaw that we were looking at before, which I think was 5824. Some things have carried through, but it is significantly different. And a lot of that is based on the public feedback we heard at those information sessions. What was really noticeable looking at a lot of the concerns is that they were with the existing rural plan that's currently in effect. And there, when we look closer at that, to be completely honest, it's not a plan that we were involved with. And we saw a lot of things that maybe were unnecessary. And if we're hearing this public feedback at this point that there's issues with those, then it's worthwhile addressing that. So these issues were agriculture standards. And I'm noting this one with the asterisks because it was also a section that the Department of Agriculture at the provincial level had concerns with as well. They were the only provincial department to really have any feedback on this plan when we sent it around. As well, there were a lot of what I'm calling design standards, where accessory structures could go, vehicle bodies and shipping containers not being allowed to be used for accessory structures and other things. Regulation of signs. We did introduce increased flexibility for home-based businesses, but the closer we looked at the plan, I think it sort of became apparent that it didn't really even need to be addressed at all, and limiting people to, you know, certain percentages of their homes and things like that, or property was really unnecessary. The resource excavation section as well, and that's one that we're not really looking to change, and I'll talk about each of these a little bit more in depth. Some of the concerns that we heard from the public really were with the implementation of these new provincial regulations, the statements of public interest. And those are things we really have to address in the plan, but there may be ways to modify them and add some flexibility, and as best as possible within the provincial framework, address the public concerns that we heard. So flood hazard areas, that's obviously a big one. Settlement patterns, which the Department of Agriculture also had an issue with, and groundwater protection, which I'll talk about each of these in depth. So agriculture, there was somebody in the public did note that, you know, the definitions of animal units were actually not consistent with other plans that had been introduced recently. And we looked at it, we realized that the old rural plan, or the current rural plan, had these more restrictive definitions of how many animals consisted of an animal unit. In general, we were able to recommend less restrictive standards for livestock, and also a more simplistic framework where you don't have to think about livestock and hobby farms and chickens. They could all be dealt with in one section. So some of those that increased flexibility. There's a lot of concern around lot sizes and you know, with existing animals, and so that's not necessarily a requirement. And again, you know, DAF had some concerns with that as well. I mentioned that one already. The focus really is on protecting public health and safety. And so that's keeping the livestock on the lot and keeping the animals and their waste away from water on wetlands or water courses or potable water wells on people's property. There is a kind of higher category of agriculture called an intensive livestock operation that's regulated by the province. They have their own standards for it. Each particular operation is licensed separately with specific standards, and there's a lot of work that goes into that from the Department of Agriculture. So if you're over a certain number of animal units, then you fall into that category, and that's only allowed in certain zones. Whereas generally, it's a lot more flexible in the rural and mixed-use zone. Only hobby farms and I think specifically chickens were allowed in the mixed-use zone before, and so that's an increased flexibility as well. Design, sign, and sign standards. I'm kind of lumping them in together. We've actually run into some problems. You know, people want to put some accessory buildings in the front yard, and there's really no issue. You know, as well, some of these are really far back. You're not even going to see them from the road. So there doesn't, in our opinion, need to be any restriction on where those are placed. As well, there doesn't need to be any restrictions on the use of shipping containers, vehicle bodies, things like that. There's still the dangerous and unsightly premises bylaw that you have. So if there's actually an issue with a particular property where vehicle bodies are accumulating, things like that, things are left derelict, then you still have tools to deal with that. But it isn't something that needs to be dealt with in the zoning bylaw from an upfront point of view. Loading standards for commercial businesses, really unnecessary. A lot of the design standards for garden suites as well, really unnecessary. Signs in general, I think a lot of folks would be surprised there's any regulation for signs currently on the island, which there is, and we've had to, you know, actually find some creative workarounds with those regulations because they don't necessarily work for what people are looking to do. And again, you do have, if there's particular signs that are becoming derelict and causing issues, you have other tools. Home-based businesses, in each zone where one or more main use is allowed on a property, which is the case for every zone. There's the idea of secondary uses, things like this, like only allowing a home-based business as a secondary use. It's not as necessary, and you're basically saying if a commercial use is allowed in the zone, that could be a main use. It could be a use alongside the main residential use. We're not going to get into the size of these. We're just going to let people do whatever they want as long as it's an allowed use in the zone. One thing that may happen, depending on the type of use, and if it's a new, maybe a retail use in an existing residential building, that may actually trigger a building permit requirement for a change of occupancy. That's not something that the zoning bylaw deals with. That's actually a building code and building permit issue. So it doesn't mean that anything can necessarily happen. There still might be, people might have to get a building permit in some cases, but there wouldn't be any additional permitting for home-based businesses other than what's already there. Resource excavation, we're not recommending any changes. These are based on provincial best practices, and they are what you'll see in bylaws across the province. And they're that way to avoid municipal liability. I think one of the specific concerns was around the requirement to have an archaeological impact assessment. This is an area we do always try to have good talks with our First Nations communities around here, and that's predominantly the Besco Makati. And one of their biggest concerns is around disturbance of artifacts, and so they really want to see this in rural plans in the area. And the way the policy or I guess the standard is worded, it's not saying anytime there is one of these developments you have to do this. It's saying if the province requires one of these, which at a certain point under the Tourism Heritage and Culture Act, different types of resource excavations do require archaeological impact assessments under that act. So this is just reinforcing that. And we did generally try and remove things like that, where there's another provincial standard that applies. But in the case where this was also a request of the First Nation, I think it's kind of a sign of respect to leave it there, even though it is something that the province requires in certain cases, and the rural plan isn't going above and beyond that. So while what we're recommending in our process isn't a change from what we kind of have recommended before, the current rural plan doesn't actually allow any resource excavation without an amendment to that plan. So it's just not an allowed land use anywhere, even in the industrial zone, even in the rural zone. So when you have standards built into the bylaw, when you have a provincial process, that is an unnecessary level of hurdles that people would have to jump through. So what we proposed is basically you do have to meet these standards, but then if you're in the right zone, it's just a use that can happen. So it doesn't require going to council for an amendment unless there is a zoning issue. Flood hazard areas, I think one of the more probably controversial aspects of the bylaw, and there is the provincial requirement that these things are dealt with. The more we thought about it, a lot of the concern wasn't so much with developing at certain elevations, and when we look at where people have developed historically, they're usually developing as high as they can on a property. It really seemed like folks had issues with some of the mapping around this. And while some of that, it exists, it's provincially done. It's on provincial websites, so it's not anything that we have any control over. Whether there's mapping in the bylaw, we don't actually think it needs to be there. So we've changed this section to really say, if you build to a certain elevation, then that's it. And, we do have the tools to identify where those elevations are. But it isn't necessarily something that that mapping needs to be in the bylaw. And it was a little bit ambiguous in certain cases, whether all types of development would be allowed above certain elevations or only industrial or fishery stuff. And so we've I think made it clear, increased some flexibility. Basically said if you're above the 5.1 or 5.2 meters, then you're good. It doesn't matter what type, and there's no zone that deals with that. It's just about the elevation. Settlement patterns, that was another one where we did hear a lot of public feedback on, and we have expanded the mixed use zone. So it's 365 meters around every public maintained road now. That's what I just said. We've also added a policy that supports rezonings where the groundwater resources exist and the SPIs can be met. And there's even kind of a zone that allows for very outside the box proposals. And so there's direct, while, some of these things might not be allowed by right, there's at least direction given to council that if you get the right requirements met, then maybe these developments can take place, but it still requires council oversight. So you can see on the map here, hopefully, how much larger the mixed use zone has become. You can probably especially see it around Dark Harbor Road. There's also some areas where it just kind of made sense to fill it in, where there really is the potential for any rural development. And you're kind of going between roads. So I think this is a significant expansion, directly responding to public feedback. Groundwater protection. So this is, I think this summer, everybody realized how important this is. And this is an area I really do not think that council should compromise on using the rural plan as a tool to ensure there is groundwater protection. And I actually don't think the current one does do that. With the expansion of the mixed use zone, there had been some peeling back of buffering around some wetlands and water courses. And there's I've talked to council before about how important, and shared some of this information with folks on the island, just how important these environmental features are for protecting drinking water. And as there's a host of other services that they bring, but that one is maybe the most critical, that ecosystem service. So if you're going to, expand settlement areas in other ways, it doesn't really restrict the developable area. Those were already areas you were going to have to get a WAWA permit. And there is an allowance for pre-existing uses and accessory buildings anywhere in that 30, well, not anywhere, you still have to get the WAWA permit, but within that zone. So there's still the ability to keep doing what you're doing if you were doing it, add some new things that aren't significant. We do feel really strongly that the one dwelling unit per acre be maintained. That is the provincial standard. Any other, if you look at any other unserviced area in the province, certainly anyone that does not have a municipality, I haven't gone through all the municipal areas, but really any other unserviced area in the province is not exceeding 4 dwelling units per lot at 1 unit per acre. There's a provincial regulation which does not apply to Grand Manan, and this is why in the rural plan you can do, there is some flexibility, and I'll talk about that in a second, but that provincial regulation, you cannot do more than 4 units on any property, period, end of story. And once you, on that property, every dwelling needs its own acre. You cannot cluster them, except for attaching them to each other. That's the only way they can be clustered, and you can only do 4. The other thing, you know, people talk about, well, there's the technical on-site guidelines for on-site, technical guidelines for on-site sewage disposal, septic tanks, that have these minimum separation distances. And yes, you can meet them on lots that are under an acre. And there may be new systems that do a better job, but the province is not approving those except on case-by-case basis. And those minimum separation distances, while they do address some things on other lots, they're really about the lot itself. And the reason why the province, in their own subdivision regulations, their own building regulations, are saying, you know, essentially 1 unit per acre, is because if you start getting more and more infrastructure that's only meeting the minimum separation distances, at a certain point, you're going to overwhelm the carrying capacity of the soil, of the water, both for drinking water and also for disposing of septic fields. They need space, and the more use they have, the more space they need. So from if you're looking at overall, you know, thinking about the whole island, allowing development that is denser really is a risky thing to do, especially with the groundwater situation. So where the flexibility does come in, where the rural plan can exceed what would be the case in other unserviced areas of the province, is that for a cluster development or mini home park, but in that section, there's no cap on the dwelling units per acre. It scales however many acres you have, that's how many dwelling units you can have. They don't have to be attached, they can be, but you know, the idea of a mini home park, that's maybe an easier thing to do for developers than you know, apartment buildings. So there's no requirement that if you're going to have more than 1 dwelling unit on, you know, closer to another one, it has to be literally attached to it. And what this means is that you can have individual units placed closer than 1 unit per acre, and PAC can vary that. If there's a case to be made, that's up to PAC. That number can go down, the minimum lot size. So there's local flexibility and control that we have really, I think, gone to the greatest extent that we feel comfortable recommending to you. The other thing we did, and this is more cosmetic, but I think it does really help. And there was the cover image on the first page. Is we've really, I say we. This is really Alex, the planning director at the Service Commission. He has a really good eye for design as well as planning, and he's taken kind of a boring text document and made it visually really appealing, added in some maps for context. They don't have any regulatory purposes, but they maybe help contextualize some of the policies a little bit. These are just a few images from the bylaw. That one I really think is amazing. I think that's near the lighthouse on the southern end. Just amazing rock formations. And then also functionally, there's a little bit that has been improved as well, I think. Helping folks visualize on a site where things can go. this is a handy tool. We have it in some of our other bylaws where we can just, people come in, they want to know where can I develop on a lot. We can just print out this page and it makes it pretty obvious. So in terms of next steps, when you're ready, you could ask for views of PAC in the province. Oops, animated in the wrong place. As I said before, I think restarting the process with bylaw 6125, first reading, at this point, it would be required to ask for the views again because of the substantial changes. And public hearing, that was a step that never took place before. And so that's still something that would need to happen. And of course, readings. So I don't think there's any formal process to end the last bylaw. It is something you could do, but I think as long as you just stop the process and don't do any more readings, it will kind of die essentially. And this process could start immediately tonight. I'm not quite sure what's on the agenda, but that's it for my presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Xander, for walking us through that. I think that was helpful for us again, and then for anybody who might be watching. Do we have any questions or comments for Xander before we move to the next step? Okay, hearing none. What I'm going to suggest is we can, if it's the will of the group, we can rescind the motion that was the first reading of the last bylaw, just to make it official that that's gone and that we're moving on. That motion was made at the September 8th regular meeting. It was motion 143-25. It was moved by Councillor Kara Greenlaw, seconded by Councillor Susan Ballantyne. Be it resolved that the Village of Grampian Council give first reading by title only to the rural plan dated September 2025, which shall be numbered as bylaw 5825. So if someone would like to make a motion to rescind that motion. You heard the motion from Councillor Greenlaw. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Ballantyne. Question. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. So when we had talked about scheduling for this, if we were looking to move forward with this version of the plan, the suggestion was that we would do a motion similar to what I just read, that we would read the bylaw in title only, and that the bylaw, the rural plan, will be posted on our website for public viewing as opposed to reading the entire rural plan, because Xander gave us a quick overview in 10 to 15 minutes, and reading the plan would be much longer. So if that's the wishes of the group, we would need a motion for that, and then we also need to address PAC and the province if we move past that first motion. So
I'll make that motion.
that we give first reading in title only to the rural plan dated December 2020. Here, why don't you read this motion with the appropriate, it's the one right at the top.
Be it resolved that the Village of Grampian Council give first reading by title only to the rural plan dated December 2025, which shall be numbered as bylaw 6125.
You heard the motion from Councillor Ballantyne. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. I believe we need a motion to refer the draft plan to PAC and the province for review with a deadline of, is there a time limit that we need to give, Xander?
So PAC under the Community Planning Act has 30 days to give their views. And with the province, we generally give them 2 weeks.
Okay.
So we take care of sending it to all the relevant provincial departments, and we send, in an email, we basically say, please give your comments within 2 weeks.
Counselor
Do we
Ballantyne.
need- do we need a motion to send it to PAC?
I think we did last time, just for
Okay.
formality.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Heard the motion from Counselor Ballantyne. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Counselor Toll. Question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. The other thing that we had talked about doing was, with the holidays at the end of the month, we have in the past delayed our regular council meeting by a week. So the suggestion was that we have our public hearing of objections on January 5th, which would be our regular council meeting night, and then have our regular council meeting the night of the 12th, 1 week later. So is that, I don't think we need a motion to set the date as long as we give 3 weeks' notice, but is that timeline still doable for everybody? Okay. Have we forgotten anything that we were supposed to do with this very procedural thing? Xander's leaning forward. I feel like we have.
No, no, that's it.
Okay. This is a lot more formal than what we normally do, Xander, so thank you for guiding us through
You do
that.
have to put the notice on the website of the public hearing date. And you know what, frankly, I don't think it would hurt to have a motion, just to be safe. I would move that if that works.
Okay. So would somebody like to move that we have a public hearing on January 5th, 2026?
I would move we have a hearing on January 5th, 2026, hearing objections to our rural plan 61-25, and we would have that in the evening, I'm guessing, probably 6:30 till 8?
Sure.
Sure.
You heard the motion from Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder?
Aye.
Seconded by Councillor Sturgeon. Question? Yes?
Just keeping up with procedure, we can't advertise that public hearing date for no more than 30 days prior to the date. So we get a back date from January 5th, 30 days.
We have time because it's the first.
But we can't go any more than 30 days
Oh,
Okay, so advertise it 30 days.
yep,
on the 5th.
on the 5th. Okay.
We'll
Question?
just have to make sure the advertisement goes on the website between the 30 and 21 days.
Okay, so we were at the question, I believe. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Is there anything else on this one? Councillor Toll, you look like you, good? Okay, thank you, Xander, for walking us through that. I appreciate it, and I think it goes without saying that if there are questions or concerns, we'll follow the same process we had last time, which is please send an email to the village or reach out and we will talk it through as best we can. So, thank you for your work on that, Xander.
Yeah, and I'd say, you know, folks are reaching out to you asking about these changes now, and you want to send them to me, please do. You all know how to get a hold of me, so people want to know what does this mean now. I'm happy to walk folks through that.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you very much.
Very, very welcome.
Thanks. Okay, so that brings us up to new business, 14.1. NB Power Generating Station. This is an update on a call I had with NB Power a couple weeks ago. We've been doing them twice a year in the spring and the fall, just since a couple of years ago when that came out in the energy strategy that they were going to decommission the generating plant here. They had done a reassessment of the station. It was in better shape than what they anticipated, but parts are essentially hard to come by to replace, so they're looking at a refurbishment. The planning for that is going to take place in 2026, going into 2027, so more tangible details probably the next time we talk, but just wanted to put it on the agenda so people know we haven't forgotten about it. It's still out there. It's just no news is good news, and they do recognize that this is important for us. There was also a call with the NB Power Review Committee last week for the municipalities, And I took the opportunity there as well to indicate that it's important that we maintain a generating station on the island for public safety as much as power generation. So, any questions or comments on that one? Hearing none, we'll move on to 14.2, which is an application for donation from the Junior NBA, and that was in everybody's council package. Questions or comments on the application? Councillor Green?
Hi, okay, we receive these all the time, and, I guess, I don't know if we've ever returned anyone down, so I'm not sure tonight's the night to start. I would move that we, okay the funds for the, was it MBA program? Junior MBA program.
You heard the motion from Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor?
Right.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. 14.3 is another application for donation for the U7 minor hockey. And that was in the package as well.
I guess my mic's still on. Must
Guess
as
you're
well
up
use
then.
it. I would move that we, okay this donation for the minor hockey for the sum of $200.
You heard the motion from Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder?
Oh, second.
Seconded by Councillor Turner. Question? All those in favor?
Right.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. 14.4 is resignation from council. And there was a letter in everybody's package from the deputy mayor to indicating his resignation. We had talked about this at committee of the whole, and with the sale of his house, Roger no longer lives in the municipality, and under the Local Governance Act, that is a requirement to sit on council. So I know personally I was very sad to see him leave, you know, both on the previous council and then for this term. It's been a pleasure to work with him, and I think he's been a really valuable part of the team. So I'm going to miss having him here. Wish him obviously the best on Whitehead, but sad that he is not part of the municipality anymore, not here on council. So be looking for a motion to accept the resignation and declare the seat vacant.
Madam Mayor, like yourself, with heavy hearts, I do have to accept this resignation. He's been an absolute pleasure to work with, as I think all of us can attest to. True community-minded person, but the rules is the rules. And with that being said, I will make a motion to accept Roger Fitzsimmons' resignation from council.
You heard the motion from Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Ballantyne. Question? All those in favor?
Right.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. That was a very sad sounding aye. I think that kind of indicates where we all were. I'm going to suggest we had added the election of deputy mayor down below, but why don't we do that right now while we're on the topic? So at this point, with Roger's resignation, obviously that leaves the deputy mayor position vacant. So we will be looking for nominations from the floor for the position of deputy mayor.
I would like to nominate Kara Greenlaw for the position of deputy mayor. I think she would be great.
The motion from Councillor Ballantyne. Do we have a seconder?
I would seriously second that. As opposed to frivolously. As frivolously, it's not, it's serious.
Gonna have to So there was a move and a second for the nomination for Councillor Greenlaw. Is there any other nominations? Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? So after calling 3 times, I'll declare nominations ceased. Councillor Greenlaw, do you accept the nomination? Congratulations. So I guess it's about time for me to walk out the door. Good luck. Let me know how this turns out for you. I do appreciate you taking this on, and I think it will be a very good experience, hopefully. All right, so leaving that, yes.
Madam Mayor, I believe the next motion should be to change the signing officers.
Oh, good point. Would you like to make that motion?
I'm not sure if I can get all the names right. All the people that were there are there. Roger's gone and Kara's replacing. I mean, the motion's supposed to list them all out, and yeah.
Can we just say replace Roger Fitzsimmons with Kara Greenlaw?
Well, you have to take that to the bank, and if they accept that, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You heard the motion from Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Valentine. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. If the bank comes back, we may have to redo that motion with the proper wording in January, but we'll give it a try for the month of December. All right. I never thought about signing officers. Thank you for that. Yeah. 2026 budget is up next, and Treasurer Alyssa Calder is going to speak.
So we had a budget meeting last week, last Thursday, I think. And we've finished our budget. Chris and I have inputted it into the computer, and he has the numbers. So he's gonna have to give that to somebody to read to accept our 2026 budget.
So I think in everyone's package, you have a template of the resolution that we need. So I'll just spit off the numbers so you can all fill them in, and at the end, we'll just need someone to officially make the motion. So the total operating budget for the municipality for 2026 will be $4,963,539.00. The warrant for the municipality for the ensuing year will be $3,588,181.00. The tax rate for the municipality for 2026 will be 1.1903. And for the Outer Islands, it will be 0.7500.
So while everybody's filling, after my lecture about microphones, I'm the one that didn't turn it on. So while everybody's filling in the numbers and looking for someone to make that motion, I will just say it was a bit of a challenge this year with the budget, with the property assessment freeze. Our overall assessments went up by 1.3%, so we were trying to keep our tax rate within what it was last year, and we're up but under a cent, so it's not a significant amount. So hopefully people will appreciate that we tried to keep it as close as we could, and we're very relatively close, I feel. So with that, looking for a motion to accept the budget. Anybody want to read those numbers back?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion, therefore be resolved that the sum of $4,963,539.00 be the total operating budget for the municipality. That the sum of $3,588,181.00 be the warrant for the municipality for the ensuing year, and that the tax rate for the municipality be $1.1903 for Grand Manan Island and .7500 for the Outer Islands. The council orders and directs the levying by the Minister of Environment and Local Government of said amount on real property liable to taxation under the Assessment Act within the municipality of Grand Manan.
You heard the motion from Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Can we change ensuring to ensuing?
Oh,
It's the wrong word.
we get an extra R in there, yes. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you as well to the staff, particularly for putting the budget together for us. Really, there's a lot of work that went into it behind the scenes before we sat down to it, so really appreciate all their hard work on that one. 14.6 is the Planning Advisory Committee subdivision recommendation. Councillor Ballantyne.
Thank you. I'll be as quick as I can. So the Planning Advisory Committee is the body that makes decisions on applications for bylaw variances. I'm the chair of the committee. Trish is the vice chair. The other members are Adam Parker, Pam Greenlee, Andrew Jones, Mike Monroe. We heard 2 cases last week that involved a decision about land being granted for public purposes. So in some circumstances, the legislation requires the developer of a proposed subdivision to either give 8% of the total land to the village for public purposes, or if council so requires, to give 6% of the assessed value of the land instead of giving the 8%. So we heard 2 cases last Wednesday. Both of them involved this decision. Not all cases that come before us do. But in one case, which is the Vernon Patton subdivision in Castalia, the committee recommended, the PAC recommended that council accept the 6% of the assessed value in lieu of the land. And the reasons for that were really twofold. The land that would have been given is not very much. It would have been less than an acre. And in addition, the developer had been told, I think by the Regional Service Commission, that he had the choice whether to pay the 6% in money or provide 8% in land, and so he had paid the 6%. So we told him that it's not his decision, it's council's decision. But in the circumstances, given that the money's already been paid, and given that the land that we would receive if we elected to receive land is pretty small, the PAC recommended that we take the 6%. And the reason I wanted this on the agenda tonight is that these are hurdles that people who are proceeding with proposed development plans have to jump over before they can go any further. And given that we're all anxious to have houses built on the island, I just thought we could deal with it fairly quickly. So in the patent case, the committee, the Planning Advisory Committee recommended that council accept the 6%. So we could talk about that one now, and then I can talk about the other one later after, because in that case, we went the other way, and we're asking for 8% of the land instead, and wanting council to approve that.
I
So-
would suggest we deal with that one first, as you said, and I think you're looking for a motion to accept the
Yes.
PAC recommendation of 6% monetary of the assessed value of the property.
Yep.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion?
I don't know, is it appropriate for
Is
me
it
to make the motion? I don't know.
I would think it would actually be even more so, because you're the one who's breaking, there's no, obviously, there's nothing for you, I mean,
Right.
personally, or anything, of course, so.
Okay. Then I move that council accept the PAC's recommendation to accept 6% of the value of the land in lieu of 8% of land for public purposes in the Vern Patton subdivision file.
You heard the motion from Councillor Valentine. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that, Madam.
Seconded by Councillor Sturgeon. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. And then the second one?
So the second case is a larger piece of property. It's Beach Hill subdivision. And the land is, the properties in question are 19 hectares. So the land that would be provided for public purposes is just over 3 acres, even if you exclude all of the roads. And given the size of it, and given that it's not like we have to have a plan for the use of it right away, it just seemed like that would be a nice piece of property that we could use for public purposes. At some point, it could be just green space, if nothing else. It could be something that school kids could go, you know, dig up plants. Anyway, so I would make a motion that council accept PAC's recommendation to request 8% of the land for public purposes in the Beach Hill subdivision file.
You heard the motion from Councillor Valentine. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Greenlaw. Do we have a question?
Question, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I assume the piece that we're gonna be getting, it's road, it's accessible by road or whatever, like, there's
Yeah,
a
the
right of way
public-
to it, I guess.
The public has to have access to it.
Okay.
It's a condition of the grant of the land. So the way it works apparently is that we can't point to the 3 acres that we want, and they can't require us to take any particular 3 acres. They have to propose the 3 acres that they want to give, and we have to confirm that it's acceptable to us. But wherever it is, the public has to have access to it.
Okay, just wanna make sure on that, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Green?
We discussed this briefly the other day. I think when we ask for land of public use, if we don't have a reasonable intent to use it for public use in the immediate future, and here we have a person that wants to subdivide that and potentially build houses on it, that we're being roadblock, stumbling block, we're adding cost. They've got to go back to their surveyor and have that resurveyed or redrawn up. I mean, it's all surveyed, but planned out. And we don't even know if, like I say, I was telling Susan that if we had beach access or something like that, I could see us wanting to guarantee that the public could have use of it. But on the side hill up there, I really, personally, I don't foresee us having, in the immediate future, having use for it. So I think we're just being less than helpful in moving this development forward.
I don't think it is reasonable to expect us to have a planned use for the immediate future, given that we only found out about the existence of the proposed subdivision when we were sent the material for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting. And there's certainly nothing in the legislation that requires us to have immediate plans for it. So, given the size of the land, and it's my view we should accept it.
Councillor Sturgeon, yeah?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I can understand both points of view, of course, but initially, this is what I've had over with people, of course, we talked about the rural plan, what's the deal about it requiring so much, whatever, so because eventually when that land becomes developed, you know, you're gonna need things to service those houses. You're gonna need, you know, potential for parks, and like, you know, and such like that, so that's the idea. And, so I'm leaning towards having potential, because we don't want to be down the road, them needing things, and we have no access to doing that, I guess.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Turner?
Does that piece of land, like, I'm presuming part of it would be mixed use and part would not, because it must go a fair distance back from the road? Is that right? It's 385 meters along the road that would be mixed use?
In the proposed plan, yeah.
I don't know what the zoning is. It wasn't in the recommendation that came from the New Brunswick Service Commission.
Reach it again.
Okay, I have Chris and then you.
I was just to confirm, Councillor Turner, that you are right, because that particular property, they were able to do the resource extraction on the back piece because it was rural and not on the front piece that was mixed use, so it is two different, and it also borders on the commercial, which is the airport.
Councillor Green.
And going back to something I've mentioned several times, I have a one sentence subdivision, I haven't got my glasses on, recommendations. That's what I've got. I don't have a plot plan of that. I don't have any information on it. It's very hard to have an intelligent conversation, or I went to the PAC meeting, but I couldn't see the drawings that were up on, that you guys had. I probably should have went up and asked for it, but I think some of this information should be forthcoming to us. We shouldn't be sitting here blind, personally.
And I certainly agree that it's much more useful when we have information. I think we were just anxious to let the plans move forward, and that's why I asked for it to be on the agenda tonight. But we could table it and deal with it next month, if that's the preference.
I don't, tabling it and kicking things down the road, we've been accused of doing that way, way too many times, and I'm not sure I would disagree with that. But if I'm the only one that's having these thoughts, and obviously I'm the only one that's got a problem, there's 5 other people here, vote, I'll suck it up and move on. You know, but I really think that when we had the one for North Head, that was, again, with minimal information to council, and only that night they showed us a little bit of what was going on up there. And to me, up there, land for public use, to have access to hole in the wall and all that, that was a no-brainer. That was better than any money to us, because that's a prime tourist spot in the summer. And up in the mosquitoes and the black flies up there, I don't see that being a tourist spot in the summer. And I think that, to say we're slowing the process of that development down by asking them to go back and replan that and come back to us with that, and then negotiate with the PAC is, no, we want this, whatever your process is. I don't know, I don't go to those meetings often, but I think that's just slowing the process down more than I'm comfortable with.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Are there any more comments or discussion on the motion? Councillor Toll.
I just want to emphasize the fact that it's not necessarily something that can make us money or can be used by tourists. It's an area, so if that area that's being proposed, if all those houses go up and there's families in there and there's all this traffic going on, it might be an area you can put where kids can have a playground, or where they can just go play in the woods, or they can just, it's for public use. And if that area gets built up around there, that's already in place for more people to get to visit and do. So that's how I take that.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Contrary minded?
Nay.
Motion carried. 14.7 is Mayor and Council Christmas party and New Year's levy. Councillor Sturgeon?
Oh, mic's on already. Good, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I've been around the table off and on, fair amount. I think it's 20 years plus, along that line. And I remember some things that we used to do, and some things we don't do, of course, things we don't do anymore. And and there's 2 things that has been brought here this evening, and one is the Christmas party, another one is New Year's levy. Now, Madam Mayor, I've been involved in Union Municipalities New Brunswick, in a great organization, and we have a lot of workshops. And in particular, the purpose of the workshops is how council, not just members of council, but council and staff can work better and make their community work better, run more efficiently. Now, Madam Mayor, I don't have to tell you, sometimes there's some things that go on that we don't all agree on. But you know what? That's all right. That's democracy. That's how it works. True democracy demands that decisions are made by many who should be influenced by many more. So there's times when, hey, we're not in agreement, but we make decisions and we move on. And with that in mind, what a lot of these workshops highly recommend is that any time that you have an opportunity for council and its employees to get together and have a time when that's enjoyable, that's not business, it's highly recommended that we do it. Because overall, it makes council who, and when I talk of council, as I said, it's not just us as elected members, but all the employees. The common goal that we all have, and I truly believe this, not just Graham and Ann, but anywhere, is that we want to be here for the betterment of the community. We want it to work better. We want to work together as a team. There's no I in team, as we've all heard. And so one of those things that we should do, I believe is, I like for us to do, is that I would like for us to have a Christmas party like we used to have. So it's a time for us all to get together, to relax, to enjoy each other, and to wish each other well. And so I would like for us to do that. And also, we used to do a New Year's levy. And I'll be the first to admit they weren't always well attended because it was something new, right? But however, there has been times when it was always a good time to, besides a time of food, of course, but a time to recognize those who, like us, do their best to make our community what it is and to strive to make it better. It takes work. It takes organization, but I believe that's well worth it. And I'd just like to hear if anybody else shares any thoughts on these activities as well around this table.
Thank you, Councillor Sturgeon. Any questions or comments? Councillor Turner?
I do like the, community awards, but I think they could be made in, maybe the January meeting, have somebody, have them attend our January meeting, or whenever. It doesn't have to be that time of year either. I do like that piece, not necessarily involving a levy, but I do like the community awards. And I don't think it's something where we should feel like you've got to do some every year, or you've got to, I just think it should be more, okay, we agree this person should be recognized or whatever, but sort of more informal, I guess.
Councillor Valentine?
And I like that idea as well. I like the idea of recognizing members of the community who have gone out of their way to make the community a better place. And I think it's a good idea to do that at a council meeting, rather than having a bigger event around that. I also like the idea of socializing with other members of council. But it's going to be difficult to find a time before Christmas, because maybe we could do it an after Christmas party, a middle of January party.
January 2nd. My birthday. Never mind.
Councillor Green?
The recognizing people, they used to do the New Brunswick Day Merit Awards. Do they still do those? Does anyone know?
I don't know.
It was a community type thing. I don't know. The issue with the levy to me is that somebody's got to work it. No, I mean, we would look to our staff to do that, and to do that on New Year's Day. That I don't want to make that ask. Or we could hire someone to cater it, but still someone's got to be responsible to open the building, close the building, clean up afterwards. So, yeah, I know some municipalities do it, but we're such a small group, I don't really feel that we should ask someone to do that.
Councillor Sturgeon?
Once again, Madam Mayor, I appreciate the input around this table. And yes, these are thoughts that have gone through my mind as well. And especially about having a time of recognition for those who make our community better, maybe we can sort something out in the future. I would like to make a motion that we ask our staff to attempt to see what we can have for for a Christmas get-together. And if we can't do it, we can't do it. I mean, but at least to make an attempt on that regards, so that we all may get together on a good social, and I don't know, I don't like to say less tense, but it's just more enjoyable mode, that's all.
Heard the motion from Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder? Hearing none, the motion would die. I do want to circle back, though, to the recognition piece, because I think there is merit there. I think that there, other communities have like recognition type of programs. I think, in my mind, if we're going to do something, I'd like to have a little bit of structure around how we identify who we're recognizing. So maybe we can put some thought into have a look and see what some other communities do, put our own spin on it, but have something, maybe we can come back at the January meeting and look at what that would be, and then go forward from there. Does that make sense on that? Would there be support for that?
Yes.
Okay. So we've done the election of the deputy mayor, so that leads us down to 14.9, which is the right to information request.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the mail today, we received a request for the Right to Information and Protection of Privacy Act from Mr. is requesting the contract for the ditch work for the village. It would be the ditch work being done for the village by Jordan Layton, in brackets, counselor, all tenders too. The period of the record is work done in 2025, whenever the contract began for this ditch work done in 2025. As we all know, we are contracted by the Department of Transportation Infrastructure to do the maintenance for their right-of-way. This is a partnership between the provincial government and the municipality. But before we give out any information, I believe we need to check with legal as well as our other partner on how to proceed with this.
Councillor Sturgeon?
Madam Mayor, I was kind of wondering myself if this was something that was best handled in closed session, because it's a legal issue, so I was kind of wondering along that line as well.
I suggested it was open session, so that's on me. Simply because it was accessed information is a public record, like whatever the request is. So I think at this point, perhaps the best thing would be to maybe have a motion to seek advice from the province on how to proceed, and then we can come back and whatever legal advice we have, whatever advice from them, we may need to have that conversation in closed session. Councillor Turner?
Is the belief that there is a contract with Mr. Layton? Is that the way I'm hearing that? Like between the village and? I was just trying to.
It says the contract for the ditch work for the village. It would be the ditch work being done for the village by Jordan Layton, bracket counselor.
So it's the ditch work being done for the village by the village. So there would be no contract between those two parties. But I guess moving forward, it would be up to DTI to whether they want to release the terms of their contract with the village, if that's where we're going with this, but I'm not sure that's what's being asked for.
I see what you're saying. It is a little unclear. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we will seek advice from the province and legal on how we proceed with this.
Madam Mayor, for clarity, I'll just, for the record, I guess I'll make that a motion to that effect, so that it's on the record.
You heard the motion from Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Greenlaw. Question? Yeah, go ahead.
Just comment, Madam Mayor, and I think most of us people around the table, and anybody who doesn't agree with me, please. Nobody, I don't think, has any problem with providing information in that regard. It's just that there needs to be some clarity about what exactly he's looking for, and most of us are not lawyers. I know I'm not. My comrade beside me is. But anyway, it's just that nobody's trying to skirt the issue or finding out. It's just that we want to make sure providing what he's looking for here, that's all.
I think that's a good clarification, and there are parts of our agreement with DTI that, because it involved employees that are subject to be not disclosed. So those are the pieces that I think we need to make sure that we're being cautious about going forward, more so than just what the agreement is. So I think that's a good clarification. Councillor Ballantyne.
Should we ask him, like, should we get really clear in what he wants before we get legal counsel involved in commenting on how to respond?
Perhaps we start with the province and just see what DTI says and then go from there.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Turner?
I don't think it would hurt to respond and say, you know, that Mr. Layton is an employee of the village.
Contractor.
Right, right. But he's not a councillor.
No.
He's listed in there too, so.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So,
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
there's motion on the floor. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Okay, that's the second time I almost lost where we were on a motion tonight. So the fact we've managed to vote on both of them, I'm considering a win. So we're moving up to number 17, which is approval to pay the following invoices from the general operating fund. Approach Navigation Systems for the airport apron, $4,968. Approach Navigation Systems for the annual AWAS maintenance, $3,018.75. Charlotte County Refrigeration for complex maintenance, $9,562.25. Clearwater Well Drilling for the airport, $13,882.80. Dexter Machining for DTI Asphalt Mixer, $1,842.66. Home Hardware, the October statement of $2,426.25. Safety Source Fire for Fire Department High Flow Jet, $8,987.25. Sullivan Sales and Service for the Transfer Station Dump Truck, $1,945.64. Sullivan Sales and Service for DTI GM 002, $5,361.73. Uline for Airport, $3,352.65. And Dutchman Contracting for DTI for $3,450.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to pay the following invoices, the pre-read invoices out of the general operating fund.
You heard the motion from Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. From the General Capital Fund, we have Lindsay Construction for progress claim number 14 for $295,585.42. And a second invoice from Lindsay Construction, and it's the holdback for $174,300.38.
I'd make a motion to pay those from the general capital fund.
You heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Greenlaw. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Ballantyne. Question?
Madam Mayor?
Councillor Green?
If we're paying the whole back, then the job is 100% complete?
Done.
So,
My question too.
does that mean, I've heard some complaints from locals that recently that they haven't been paid yet? That's been looked after. The
This will
locals are all
completely
paid.
pay everything off.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. I think we can all say a yahoo to finishing that up. 18-1, oh, not quite. Motion to transfer $426,106.70 from the airport line of credit to the general capital fund.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to transfer $426,106.70 from airline line of credit to the general capital fund.
Heard the motion from Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Turner. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. 18.2 is a motion to transfer $53,707.03 from the gas tax fund to the general capital fund.
I'll make that motion.
You heard the motion from Councillor Valentine. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Turner. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item number 19 is closed session. We have two things. 19.1 is personnel salary recommendations, and 19.3 is property doctor housing.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion, we go into closed session to discuss those two items.
Heard the motion for Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. I'll recall this regular council meeting back to order at 25 after 9. We were in closed session to talk about two items. The first was personnel salary recommendations.
So I move that we accept the personnel, salary recommendations.
You heard the motion from Councillor Ballantyne. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Turner. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 19.3, we talked about doctor housing, and there was no decision coming from that. So our next regular council meeting will be here on January 12th, 2026, 7:30 p.m. Thank you all. Good night.